Wow, that's a weird one. I wonder how that happened. Oh, I think, okay, it's probably just a copy and paste, though.
I think it was, yeah.
Copy and paste, though.
Are we making that happen? Is that a thing that we're making happen?
Copy and paste, though? Yeah, sure.
I meant to kind of yell at you on Merlin's behalf because you were just shitting on all over Merlin for Sharrow, which I understand why you're grumbly about it.
It's Sharrow. He's
Sharrow.
He's from Long Island, so it's Sharrow.
That's right.
Anyways, you were crapping all over Merlin for Sharrow, but then you busted out, what was it? It was not a round rec. There was something else that you had said. Squircle.
I didn't bust out Squircle. I did not invent Squircle. That's the problem with Sharrow is Merlin like inventing a terrible word, but Squircle is not. I didn't invent Squircle. Squircle was before all of us.
First of all, I don't think Sharrow is bad. However, I do agree that it seems to be a Merlinism that no one else uses.
Right. Whereas Squircle is a thing. It's a term of art. I didn't make up Squircle. Don't yell at me about Squircle.
I'm not yelling at you about Squircle.
You are yelling at me about Squircle.
No. Because my point is, to my brain, they're both, I can't pronounce this word properly, but they're both portmanteaus. Share, arrow, and square, circle.
If I say like a pent oval or something, feel free to yell at me, but Squircle is not on me. I'm sorry.
All I'm saying is you're grumbling at Merlin for one portmanteau, yet you're
just because he's making it up and it's dumb. Whereas Squircle is pre-existing condition.
So he's not given the right to create. Only to
read. He can try to make Sharrow happen, but good luck.
So he does not have the C in CRUD, is what you're saying. For those who are confused, Sharrow is the Merlinism, which I agree with Marco. I actually liked it.
No, it's
is the Merlinism for a share arrow. So like the square with a little arrow popping out that you see is like a share icon on iOS.
No, we'll know he's made it when you go into SF Symbols and type Sharrow and it comes up.
Anyway, I didn't mean to start this episode antagonistically, so we should probably come up with a happier pre-show than that.
But we can't.
But we can. All right, here we go. Hey, so if you wanted to order a shirt but missed the sale because you don't listen to your pal Casey and do your vision exercise and visualize where you're going to be when you can actually order things during the time limited sale, well, guess what, baby? The on-demand store is back open. And John, would you mind taking us on a quick tour of what we have available, please?
Sure. Normally, I wouldn't even mention the on-demand store for the podcast listeners because the podcast listeners all hear about the real time-limited store, which has much better quality shirts with better quality printing that, yes, costs a little bit more money. But on this special occasion only, I will mention the on-demand store because the holidays are coming up, and if you did happen to miss the other sale or you're just desperate for a gift for a nerd in your life or something, the on-demand store is up. The products we have in the on-demand store are the M1 and M2 shirts. No suffix, just plain old M1 and M2. Also, no back printing on any of these. So if you wanted a shirt without anything on the back, these all have nothing on the back, right? But I think that for the printing process that they use on these cheaper shirts, I think the rainbow-colored M1 and M2s don't look as good as I hope the monochrome ones will look. So we have monochrome M1 and M2 shirts as well there. It's just white printing on it, and that I think will come out a lot better with this less expensive printing process. And we also have monochrome ATP shirt. And for the rainbow M1 and M2 logo shirts, the shirts are just black because the logo, has so many colors on it. It doesn't, goes well with black. But for the monochrome shirts, all the shirts come in different colors. And if you load atp.fm/store and wait a few seconds, you'll see the shirts rotate through all the different colors that are available. So there you go. If you're desperate for shirts and you missed it out on it before and you want a chance to buy slightly less expensive but slightly lesser quality shirts, they are available.
Excellent. And what about a chicken hat?
We do not yet have more chicken hats. The chicken hats remain sold out. I promise you, if we manage to get more chicken hats in time for the holidays, we will tell you on this program. Yep. But that's probably not going to happen because we are rapidly manufacturing and shipping all the chicken hat orders that we've already received. And we have made another order, so there will be more chicken hats eventually, but anyway, stay tuned to this program.
In time for summer next year.
Yeah, right.
They're going to be here in time for winter in the Northern Hemisphere this year. It's just a question of will they be here in January or whatever. So we'll let you know on the show.
We are brought to you this week by Kolide, an endpoint security solution that uses the most powerful untapped resource in IT, end users. When you're trying to achieve security goals, whether for a third-party audit or your own compliance standards, the conventional wisdom is to treat every device like Fort Knox. Old school device management tools like MDMs force disruptive agents onto employee devices that slow performance down and treat privacy as an afterthought at best. And that way of doing things turns IT admins and end users into enemies. And it creates its own security problems because users turn to shadow IT just to do their jobs. So Kolide does things differently. Instead of forcing changes on users, Kolide sends them security recommendations via Slack. It'll automatically notify your team if their devices are insecure and give them step-by-step instructions on how to solve the problem themselves. By reaching out to employees via friendly Slack DMs and educating them about company policies, Kolide can help you build a culture in which everyone contributes to security because everyone understands how and why to do it. And for IT admins, Kolide provides a single dashboard that lets you monitor the security of your entire fleet, whether they're running on Mac, Windows, or Linux. You can see at a glance which employees have their disk encrypted, their OS up to date, their password manager installed, whatever else you might need, making it easy to prove compliance to your auditors, your customers, or your leadership. So that's Kolide, user-centered, cross-platform endpoint security for teams that Slack. You can meet your compliance goals by putting users first. Visit kolide.com/ATP to find out how. If you follow that link, they'll hook you up with a goodie bag, including a t-shirt, just for activating a free trial. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com, kolide.com/ATP. Thank you so much to Kolide for sponsoring our show.
All right, let's do some follow-up. With regard to what I have called FC Model 2 in no small part to try to encourage Marco to come up with a better name.
Oh, wait, I have a better name. I just haven't told you yet.
Oh, okay. Well, are you sharing it now or no?
No.
Okay, good talk. So anyway, so with regard to FC Model 2, aka redacted, and async await, and then bridging async await into legacy Objective-C code, I certainly, and I think John also was wondering, hey, how does that even work? And Aaron Farnham wrote in and pointed us to a article or an entry on GitHub within Swift Dilution that talks exactly about this and talks about, hey, how do you go from Objective-C into async await, and how do you go the other direction? And it talks about it, and it's pretty straightforward and pretty reasonably easy to read. And so if you're interested, you can dig into that. And the short version is basically compiler magic based on convention. And obviously it's more complicated than just that, but that's a short version. As an aside, however, I wanted to bring up a toot that Marco made like a day ago. I would like to read it to you. This is Marco Arment at mastodon.social. Spent the day working in Objective-C for the first time in a month. And for the first time, I hated it. I think I finally fully crossed over Swift all the way now. I know, welcome to 5 years ago. And to this, I just would like to say, as I tooted, finally.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that dramatic reading. It didn't really sound like Marco's voice. And another thing before we get...
wait, would you like Marco to do the dramatic reading?
Before we get to the substance of this, there is the problem that for many years, lots of us, including me, have occasionally referred to tweets on Twitter with the word toot, like just as a kind of an informal way to say tweet without saying tweet, right? And what you're trying to say is Marco posted something on Mastodon, right?
Which I think they've decided to change the name, though, haven't they?
Yeah, and now the Mastodon has since stopped calling them toots, like as of a while ago, because there was some controversy because some spoil sport was like, I don't like toot, it sounds whatever. Anyway, they changed it to post. So now when someone says toot, I can't tell if they're fancifully talking about something on Twitter in a kind of informal, fun, whimsical way, or if they mean the things on Mastodon that are no longer called toots. Anyway, this was on Mastodon. Continue.
Indeed.
Which, by the way, I'm so now that I think they've publicly acknowledged this. Now that oh my god, I'm on the Tapbots Ivory beta, which is basically Tweetbot for Mastodon.
Why are you on that beta and I'm not? This I don't understand.
Both of us are, both Marco and I.
Why am I not on this? I'm the only one who's posting any content related to Mastodon clients on Mastodon, and you both get on the beta. This is ridiculous. I'm outraged.
You should be. It's really good. Like, look. It's just Tweetbot for Mastodon, right?
It doesn't have a unified timeline, though, right?
No, it does not have a unified timeline.
It's Tweetbot for Mastodon, and that's exactly what I want. So it is. Yep. See, what's great about it, like, as I'm trying to give Mastodon like a real solid try, and honestly, I really do think it's gaining quite a bit of steam. And I think
I think that's fair.
A lot of people who I have followed mostly on Twitter, a lot of them are there now as well, or instead. And there is enough of a community forming there that I think this might stick, especially once the app situation gets worked out. So I'll get to that in a second. But really, like, the community that is forming on Mastodon, that has already formed, but the community that is growing on Mastodon is really seeing quite a bit of traction, not necessarily amongst quote non-geek people. I'm sure. I mean, there are some non-geek people there, but I don't think it's anywhere near as successful as Twitter was and probably ever will be. But there's enough people who I want to follow, who I do follow, who are there and posting there, that I think if you consider yourself to be in similar circles of interests as us, I think you should go try Mastodon. It's time. It's there is a lot of good posting happening there. There's a lot of great people there, very interesting people there. Many of the people from Twitter and from our little nerd circle are there. Many people who are outside of that circle are also there, which is even better because you get to diversify where what you're seeing and who you're interacting with. It's time. It has won the current battle of where's everyone going. I got in the intervening time between last episode. I also got into the post.news, and it seems fine, but no one I know seems to be there. And there's no native app. It's just like the PWA, like just the web app icon on the phone. And it just seems like I don't know why I would use that, because Mastodon is there doing a better job of a similar thing. So far, I'm really getting a lot of success with Mastodon, and I'm telling you, what changed it for me was when I got on this beta. Oh my god! Because when you're a Twitter user and you try Mastodon, some of the friction that you encounter is, wow, there's a bunch of weird new terms and conventions I need to learn. Some of the friction you encounter is the whole nerd setup of I gotta choose an instance and figure out where people are, and okay, that's another thing. And those two, those kind of solve themselves once you get over the initial day of usage. Then longer term, the paper cuts that hit you are, wow, this is weirdly different from Twitter, but a lot of that is simply because the apps are all different, and there's a whole bunch of different Mastodon apps, and I have not been super thrilled with any of them, frankly. I've tried, I think, 5 before Ivory, and including ones that are still in beta, ones that people say are great, and they're all different degrees of fine, but they're not great. And if you are accustomed to Twitterific or Tweetbot, which really provide great Twitter experiences, none of them are up to that level, not even close. It's like using a web app versus using a native app. It's that level of difference. So now that I, for the last day or so, have had Ivory, which is effectively Tweetbot for Mastodon, it works like Tweetbot, it looks like Tweetbot, it feels like Tweetbot. That makes such a massive difference, in my opinion, overall, of Mastodon itself, because now it seems much more like a drop-in replacement for Twitter. There are still important differences, but they're much more minor now that I have the exact same interface to it on my phone that I have for Twitter, because I'm accustomed to Tweetbot. I've been using it for years. I'm extremely confident now in the future of this, because while it is, there's certain areas where it's never going to be like Twitter, the whole, there's no quote tweeting, the federation angle, there's different things that it's never going to be like Twitter in certain ways. And there's definitely still all of the challenges we mentioned before about scaling, moderation, the federation reality, various, there are a lot of challenges in Mastodon for sure. But I think the app situation, once the Ivories come out, because they've also said they're making a Mac version, which I'm not on any beta for that yet, but that would change everything for me. Because right now, yep. I have Tweetbot open on my Mac all the time, and I have 4 different columns open, because I have my account, then my mentions, then ATP's mentions, then Overcast's mentions, because I have to be monitoring everything that people are saying to these other 2 business accounts that we have to care about, right? So and I can post to any of those 3 accounts from the app super easily, switch between them, etc. So it's an important part of my workflow. The Mac app situation for Mastodon is dire. but now that they've said they're working on a Mac version, from Tapbots, If it's anything like Tweetbot for Mac, that's going to really raise the bar for me, and that's going to be super great, just drop-in replacement for Twitter. And at that point, I think I really might substantially move over. Right now, I've kind of partially moved over. Once the Mac app situation gets worked out, I think I might really move over because it's just a nicer place to be in a lot of ways. And again, yeah, there are problems. There are going to keep being problems. But it's funny, like, I think we've crossed a threshold where, like when I was trying out Post the other night, I was like, here I am in this proprietary closed system, in this private VC-funded, Andreessen Horowitz-funded company. Why am I doing this? Like, it's like, I've already been burned by one giant VC-funded company with a closed social network. Why would I invest my time and content into another one when we have this kind of open, standards-based ecosystem over here in Mastodon and ActivityPub land? Why would I invest in some closed VC-funded one again? That thought process and that emotion, I don't think anybody had that thought process a year ago or even a month ago necessarily. So I think it's really interesting that, like, because Mastodon and the ActivityPub environment, the whole ecosystem there, because that, which is mostly Mastodon, because that is really gaining a lot of steam right now, I think a lot of us are going to start thinking this way of, like, now it's going to be very hard to convince any of us nerd types to join closed, privately held, VC-funded social networks when we have this other ecosystem that we can participate in instead. And, the ones that are already there, like Instagram, and those will stick around because they're already established. But for something to replace Twitter in particular, Twitter has always been the more nerdy social network. It's been, the information junkies, the tech nerds, like the kind of news and politics nerds. Like, it's been that kind of community much more strongly on Twitter than the other social networks. And I think that group might actually start to care in a meaningful way. Like, wait, why should we go invest in some other closed thing? Especially the nerdy half of it, which actually understands these kind of differences. But even the information junkie part, I think they're going to largely feel burned by Twitter. And you go over to look at something like Post, and, like, yeah, there are a bunch of people posting there, but it's not my scene. And I think my scene is now much more likely to stick with the open ecosystem, and I feel really good about that. Like, I hope it works out. Again, major challenges around scaling and moderation. Those are massive challenges in this open ecosystem that I think are going to be really big problems in the future to tackle. But I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been about this world now because I'm seeing it really start to take off, and I'm feeling that feeling of I don't want to go, invest my time into building up some giant following on Post or whatever when I can do this instead.
JWZ has an even more, in his typical fashion, forceful and extreme version of what you just said about Post in a blog post entitled "PSA: Do not use services that hate the internet." It's about Post and Hive and other things like that. And in terms of people ending up on proprietary platforms or whatever, it has happened before and it will happen again. I mean, how did we all end up on Twitter? Part of the reason we all ended up on Twitter is because when we all went on Twitter, it wasn't clear that Twitter would be anything other than a curiosity. People don't, if you didn't join Twitter in, January of 2007, you don't know this, but like Twitter, there's a million things that happen on the internet and they come and they go and whatever. It just so happens that Twitter became a thing. But the reason it got us all there is because, it's technical curiosity and we'll try it out. The same reason we're trying all these other things out. And then it snowballed and we were already there and it became sort of self-sustaining in the way that social networks do. You could say the same thing about, our favorite computing platform. How are we all using this proprietary, publicly traded company that runs this closed ecosystem that creates our phones and our Macs and controls the app stores that do them, when we could be using an open alternative that is open source and is not, and actually has actual meaningful competition instead of two companies that control the entire market. And, the answer to that question is the same as the Twitter answer used to be, which is, Apple makes really good stuff and they kind of got there first and they built momentum and pulled this in with really good products. And they aren't currently run by a terrible person who's making bad decisions. So what would it take for us to go to Linux on the desktop or whatever? Well, things would have to get pretty dire in Apple for that to be a thing that happens. And that's basically what happened with Twitter. Things are getting pretty dire as far as a lot of us are concerned over at Twitter. So we're looking for alternatives, and luckily there is an alternative. And then when it comes time to, look for alternatives, then we can say, okay, well, among the alternatives, let's choose the one that is not a repeat of past mistakes. Not a private company that, controls the entire platform top to bottom. It doesn't even have a web UI or whatever. Can we find something better than that and more open, right? And if the reason we're doing that is because we already, like Margaret was saying, he already has the habit of using Twitter. It is a known quantity. It is not a technical curiosity. Like, I wonder if I'll enjoy reading and writing small snippets of text. So, no, we know that's a thing already. So it's not like we're stumbling into this just trying out a random thing. What we're looking for is something to fill a similar role in our lives. If Twitter is not going in a direction that we want, right? I think the same thing would happen if Apple started going down the tubes. We'd be looking for it's like, well, laptops and mobile phones are still a thing, so now I need to find a new place to get that. It seems much more plausible than an open solution to the problem that Twitter tries to solve can happen and be feasible than, for example, to say, oh, let me find another mobile phone platform, because once you get past Apple and Android, it's slim pickings. Lots of people have tried, and we've got these two left, and that's a big problem, which I'm sure
Well, Elon's going to do it soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be great. No, it's not too hard to do.
I hope he tries.
I echo what you were saying earlier, Marco, that a lot of this has become a lot more appealing to me. And I'll be the first to tell you, I think I was the biggest curmudgeon of the three of us in moving my world over to Mastodon. But it's gotten... Perhaps because it's less new and scary, I don't know, but it's gotten a lot more palatable. And then I jumped on the Ivory beta about a day ago, and it is very, very comforting to have that nice warm blanket over you, and for everything to feel so familiar. And it's not exactly the same. And I really like that they've kind of refreshed their iconography to be kind of in a different spirit in a good way. But it's an alpha, so like if you're clamoring to be on the beta, it's actually really an alpha, and that's how they self-describe it. I mean, it crashes kind of a lot, but that's what an alpha is. Like, that's fine.
They're setting quality expectations by their standards, but
that's true.
This rough, sometimes crashing alpha of a Tweetbot app for Mastodon is already way better than every other Mastodon app I have tried. Like, it's better than all of them. By a large margin.
Mastodon client app authors, let me give you one tip. I don't know why all Mastodon clients do this particular thing. I think it's because my use case is not the common one, but I think my use case is a valid one, so people should do it. Mastodon clients all seem to have they usually use like a little house icon for like the home, timeline, right? And then there's usually some other icon or, way to switch to that's your notifications timeline, right? Every single Mastodon client I have tried, when you go to the notifications timeline, it shows you a view that I never want, which includes like, here's all the people who favorited you. Here's people who are following you. And it's like, I never want to see that. I don't care about it ever, ever, ever. What do I want to see? Marco mentioned it before. For people like us, which granted, we're not the common use case, but we are a use case, and I think it is a reasonable one to accommodate. We just want to see our mentions. Don't show us people who are favoriting our things.
Well, actually, the client I was using before Ivory is called Tusker. It's still in beta, but the test file links is being shared like crazy.
Oh, I've got it.
Tusker has a setting under, I believe it's called something like digital well-being or digital wellness, and it says default notifications mode. You can change it to mentions only, and so that when you go to that screen, then it's doing what you want. It's showing your mentions by default.
Yeah, most of the clients have this feature, which is it's usually on notifications. You can filter notifications to just show mentions or whatever, right? But A is not the default, which whatever, you can pick the defaults. But B, almost every single app doesn't care how many times I change it to show mention. Tusker is an exception, but it's a test flight beta, so who knows where it's going, right? But like, don't make me filter to show mentions every single time I change the timeline. This is setting aside things that I'm accustomed to in Twitterific, where I can save searches. So I don't think this is a thing you can even do in Mastodon yet, or at all, which is a shame. But I also, on my main Twitter account, I have a little icon in Twitterific that lets me see ATP FM mentions, right? Can't do that in Mastodon. That's a Mastodon thing, not a client app. But anyway, yeah, notifications. If you allow me to filter it to just be mentions, remember that I did that. Otherwise, I have to do it every single time. And it's really, and it amazes me that, like, I think Tusker may be literally the only client that remembers that setting or has a way to make it remember. All the other ones, you tap a notification and they're like, look at all the people who favorited stuff. I don't care. Not that I don't care. You can favorite my thing. That's fine. But I just I need to see a timeline of every single person who did the favorite. I just want to see mentions. Anyway.
Real-time follow-up. John Syracusa on Mastodon. So Syracusa at mastodon.social at Ivory. How are Casey Liss and Marco Arment on the Ivory beta and I'm not? This is an outrage! Exclamation point.
I feel a little bit bad because Aline replied to me and said that she was so sad that she missed the sign-up window, and I didn't know there was a sign-up window. So
I don't think there was.
I don't know if there was.
All right, well, I'm mad again. Never mind.
Maybe there was and I missed it, but I didn't think there was.
I think one of the things that makes this kind of migration or giant switch different from something like, if Apple's platforms go bad, it's so easy to change where you are microblogging. Like it's so like it's the switching costs and the switching like just workload are just so tiny. And it's not nothing. And depending on how integrated you are with Twitter, it can be substantial. But like I think first of all, it helps that most of us nerds who even know what third-party Twitter apps are don't use a large portion of the features that Twitter has made in the last 10 years.
Because they never exposed them to the third-party API.
Right. And, so we don't see things like, the trends and ads. We don't see, we don't do Twitter spaces really, like all these things they've added. And it also helps they've barely moved their product forward in 10 years. But anyway, so I think that's part of it too. If you look at like, to change your operating system, like to move platforms either on mobile or on the desktop or on your laptop, whatever, to change that. Like I know our friend CGP Grey once said a long time ago, I think on Cortex, once said it's like moving to a different country. Like it's such a massive disruption to move like from iPhone to Android or from Mac to PC or whatever. Like that's such a huge change, and especially if your work involves one of those platforms, or if you have a lot of software investment or workflow investment in these platforms, like it's a massive thing. Whereas changing from Twitter using Tweetbot to Mastodon using Ivory is basically nothing. You just move over.
I mean, you got to have the people go along with you. Like this is true of computing platforms as well. But there is a network effect thing that is super important because no one would care about Mastodon if no one was there. Like there has to be some critical mass of people you care about following or want to converse with. And the same thing with computing platforms. If you decide you're going to change computing platforms, are you going to change to like whatever that those people who sort of took the code for BOS, the Haiku operating system, right? You're probably not going to go to Haiku as much as you might like it because you're going to like, well, who else uses this and who else develops software for it? And so there is a network effect on platforms as well. And you mentioned like moving to another country. It's like, well, if I don't want to use Apple platforms and I don't want to use Windows or Android, I'm going to use Linux on the desktop. But that's like moving to Antarctica. I mean, it exists and is a landmass, and you can go there and stand on it, but
it's not that. I mean, it's not good, mind you, but like,
I mean, compared to the software ecosystems of the Amazon jungle of software ecosystems of the Windows, Android, iOS, Linux is tough. But yeah, no, there's not a lot of choices there. But like I said, the problem of a microblogging platform or whatever is small enough that a bunch of open standards and some reasonable software can hopefully get us over the finish line. We'll see.
Well, and I think the movement here is so strong. Like, like the last time we tried to do this was app.net, and there were a number of major differences between then and now. But I think the biggest one, first of all, it's that Mastodon is this federated open source distributed thing. App.net was not that. So this has that selling point that we didn't have back then. But the biggest difference is that way more people hate Elon Musk than we thought. Like it's such a huge difference that way more people are fleeing or have fled Twitter, and he has made so many more enemies. Back when the app.net thing was trying to get started up, I think our main beef then was that Twitter was being kind of jerks to API users and to developers of client apps.
And they were, but like there's no match for this series of just like decisions that we all don't like coming out of Twitter on a daily basis. Right?
Yeah, like the number of people who were upset about Twitter's API policies, 10 years ago, whenever that was, versus the number of people who hate Elon Musk and what he's done in the last month, it's a world of difference. Like, and so there are just so many people fleeing from that sinking ship of Twitter, or being kicked off of it, that I think it's like an order of magnitude more movement happening, or more momentum happening. Like, it's such a bigger difference now. And so I think, once Ivory comes out on iOS and Mac, game over for like all of us, all of our people, our community. It won't be there anymore. It won't be on Twitter anymore.
We'll see about that. I'm still not entirely confident that that's going to happen. But hey, I'm in both places, living two lives here, so see how it goes. I also still kind of think that like the Twitter itself is going to have value even if it is totally destroyed by Elon Musk, right? Just like the brand and the legacy. So that if, I know this is not a thing that he does, but if he gets bored and decides to move on, someone will scoop it up, right? Like and then if someone scoops it up and starts running it, not like an idiot, they'll get people back.
Yeah, that's a pretty good chance.
Well, they might.
They might. I mean, it depends on how long that happens. If Mastodon snowballs and becomes really big and ActivityPub catches on and it becomes like RSS, right? You know what I mean? If the good scenario happens, it'll be tough to get people back. But I feel like the brand cachet of Twitter is such that the desiccated husk of Twitter, after it's been hollowed out and everyone has left, is still valuable enough that someone will scoop it up and try to make a go of it. And I think if they do that, there's a good chance that a lot of people will come back. Maybe not even us, but like the fat part of the bell curve would definitely return.
I think where we will keep using Twitter is probably for like if there is some major world event happens, like some earthquake happens, or some big political event happens, then you're like, oh my god, somebody just died. Like you want to go, oh my god, what happened? Where's the news? Like
you got to go somewhere where it's not just your nerdy friends, but like everybody else is.
Yeah, and I think Twitter's going to remain that go-to place for that kind of thing indefinitely into the future, unless it really gets destroyed. But
unless the Nazis just really take it over, which is what seems to be the direction things are going.
Well, yeah, but I think for like the casual hangout version of all this stuff, I think many groups, including most of our people, I think have already moved over.
One of the things that I wanted to quickly point out, which is known, but I'm now seeing it myself, is that you can set up your own. Like instance of Mastodon, and I don't see a lot of that, but I was exchanging, don't call them toots, with my dear friend Jelly, who is running his own instance. So he's Jelly at jellystyle.social, if I remember right. And while that is not something I think I'm terribly interested in doing, and it's funny because I was speaking with Jelly about it, and he's like, oh, you should set up one for ATP. And I said, yes, I should. But none of the three of us are interested in doing it, so it's not going to happen.
Running an instance is, if one thing you take away from our past discussions is running instance is not, it's quite a thing. Like,
yeah, but even just for the three of us, I think it would be manageable.
Even just for the three of us, like I'm not entirely convinced that the scaling concern, like this came up with the person who shut down their server that I was on because they were just tired of running it, right? What they said is basically, hey, here's a server that basically nothing is going on because it's been in sort of like, you have to give like 6 months of warning or whatever, or they suggest you give 6 months of warning. So no one's on it doing anything, right? This is basically a dead instance, right? But even this dead idle instance where everyone who had accounts there has moved elsewhere and stuff, when the Mastodon spike happened, when all like the rest of us came back to Mastodon and everything, on his dead instance, he saw huge spikes in activity and load, right? So even if you make a Mastodon instance where it's just literally the three of us and we're the only people on the instance, we still have to communicate with the rest of the network for all the people that the three of us follow. And if something big is happening elsewhere on the ActivityPub network, that would impact our server. And do any of us want to be babysitting another server? Marcus certainly doesn't. I don't want to sign up for it either. There is a way to use your own domain name as sort of like a redirect through Webfinger with another instance. So you don't run the instance, but your name is like your name at yourdomain.com. But that still looked a little bit janky to me, so I wasn't ready to dive down that path. But yeah, no, if you want to run an instance for your friends, you can, but don't think it'll have 3 people on it. There'll never be any load. I don't think that is necessarily the case.
I think also, as this network of instances grows and matures over time, as we start having more and more force required to solve things like the moderation issues and scaling issues, it wouldn't surprise me if really small instances that have like 1 or 2 people on them, if they kind of become second-class citizens in the ecosystem, in the sense that like, the major instances are all probably going to maintain like, blocking lists and allow lists and everything else to try to keep moderation under control. And it's probably going to be kind of like trying to run your own email server now, which is like you'd be signing up for a world of headaches if you try to run it yourself, and you might have like no reputation among the network. It might make your post not show up right for everybody or not show up quickly or whatever.
I hope it'll be better than email, because I think the running instance with 3 people is easier than running an email server with 3 people. Already is easier. And I think the scaling concerns, it's not like you're going to be overwhelmed, because your activity pub traffic is going to be related to how many people the 3 accounts actually follow. So you have some control over it. It's just not zero. It's not like, oh, it'll be free and I'll never need to look at it. I'll never need to babysit it. At minimum, you'll need to update it when there's like patches and software updates to keep up with the rest of the network. And then eventually you need to update the underlying OS or the version of Docker, or just running anything 24/7 that you expect to be up all the time is a lot more work than people think it is. It's less work than non-technical people think, because you can just get it up and running and doing it, but it is just one more thing to be thinking about. And I really hope it doesn't get as bad as email servers, because the culture seems to be, for the most part, federate with people by default and defederate as needed. If that ever reverses, then we'll probably have a problem. But that seems against the spirit of ActivityPub, like the idea that a new instance will only federate with like this hard-coded list, and if you want to add anyone else, you have to do it manually. It seems like that just is not a way to go.
And then very quickly, since we've gone on quite a bit longer than I intended about this, there is a better Mastodon friend finder, which I haven't tried, but I think John has. Do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so there was a couple of ones we linked last time, like the Fedi Finder, glitched, right? But this one that I found finally had an interface that was closer to what I wanted. I didn't like the Fedi Finder one. It's like, oh, download this CSV and upload it to import all your things. It's like, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is every once in a while be able to look at something and say, hey, have any more people that I used to follow on Twitter, have they come over to Mastodon? And if they have, I want to follow them. And so movetodon.org, all right, has the interface that I want. You do the authentication with all the things, and then it gives you a list of all the people, and it says, if you're already following them, it says you're already following them, and if you're not following them, right next to their name is a button that lets you follow them. And that's all I want, right? And I can just reload this page every day and see if any new people have arrived, and if they have, I click the button to follow them. It is so much easier than like download a CSV or copy and paste this or go to their profile and hit follow and like. Yeah, so I think movetodon.org has a way better interface than Fedi Finder, and I hope it's not stealing all my information, because you have to give lots of permissions.
Yeah, I actually also have used Move2Don, and I'm keeping the tab in mobile Safari on my phone just open, and I go back there like every couple of days and refresh the page and just see like, oh look, so and so just joined. So it's actually really nice. I really like it.
Yeah, this is a flaw in the system, and for people to know, like, how is this working? I think we mentioned this before. We're going to mention it again. This only works if people on Twitter change their profile to put their Mastodon address somewhere in there, right? That's how this works. It's like, how does it know? Like, it gets your list of followers, then it basically looks at their profile page on Twitter and tries to find something that looks like a Mastodon address. So it knows that, hey, Joe Schmo that used to follow on Twitter, they have in their Twitter bio or something else, or in their Twitter name somewhere, they have something that looks like a Mastodon address, so here's where they are and you can follow them. If people don't do that, they're never going to show up in this tool. I follow a lot of people, and right now it has only found 53 out of the 314 people I follow. Are the rest of those people I follow ever going to put a Mastodon handle in their address? Have they even moved to Mastodon? I don't know. So this is a weak point. It's definitely better than nothing, and these tools are great, and I'm glad we were, at least enough of us have gotten on board with this convention to put the Mastodon address in our profiles, but not everybody will, and it's kind of a shame. And as you can imagine, Twitter is not. I'm surprised that they haven't started removing those things from our profile, because I think a bunch of Mastodon-related stuff has already been like blocked or muted on Twitter because Elon.
Do you think he actually, like, do you think we are registering on his radar, like this kind of movement? I'm not sure that we would.
It will eventually if it keeps going in this direction. Like it'll come up.
And then speaking of Elon, very, very quickly, please, very quickly, I wanted to call attention to the after show, the paid after show of Reconcilable Differences, episode 196. Merlin posed a very, very interesting question, which I'm not sure ever actually got answered, but nevertheless, the discussion was excellent. And Merlin asked John, if you want Twitter to stay alive, how do you want Twitter to make money? Which seems an obvious question to ask, but it's not a question I was asking. So
I totally answered it. How did you know? I mean, it's spread out over in the typical RecDiffs way. But yeah, no, I think the way they'd make money is because they're too big to make money by charging everybody, because there's just too many people and it's not the right business model for them. Were already making. I mean, they were, in terms of revenue, they had millions and millions of dollars of advertising revenue, and they had a large, desirable audience to advertise to. So I feel like advertising to your pretty large audience filled with people that advertisers want to reach is a good business. So how should Twitter make money? Again, assuming they weren't just like spending all their time allowing Nazis to get their accounts back. You advertise to most of the people, and then for the people who are willing and able to pay for something, you allow them to pay for something. Like the way I phrased it on RecDiffs was, the people who pay have to pay for something that does not make the service worse for people who don't pay. So they can't pay to like make their posts more visible or like make them more prominent, or they can't pay to be able to like delete other people's accounts. Like you can't, what they have to pay for is instead is like, now you have more powerful search features. Maybe even that could be abused. Like it's tricky to pick, but like obviously verification is worth paying for. You paid to have a human being to look at your ID and prove that you're really you, and so on and so forth. Paying to have better API access for more sophisticated APIs for more sophisticated clients like TweetDeck or whatever, right? So that's how they should make money. You advertise to almost everybody, and you make the people who want to pay for services that most people don't want or need, but the people who do want or need find worthwhile.
John, here it was. I was trying to get people to implicitly sign up for your show and pay to hear the after show, which I will reiterate was excellent. But here it is. You've now just given us the TLDR of the whole damn thing.
But I didn't imagine if that took like 50 minutes and was filled with bad jokes. That's what you're paying for.
That's the idea. Anyway, so yeah, 196, you should listen to the after show. It starts at about an hour, 36 minutes, which, speaking of, how am I the one that wants chapters all of a sudden? The three of us were resisting it so much. I don't edit that show.
Don't talk to me about chapters.
It's just, you should have chapters. And finally, with regard to this, 196 episode of RecDiffs, when the hell did that happen?
I don't know. It happens.
Oh my God.
The episodes count isn't the thing. It's what we talked about last time. That we did, it was like our 7-year anniversary or something, and both of us were very shocked by that. Seems like that's my new show that I just started doing. Maybe we've been doing it for 2 years, but no.
We are sponsored this week by Linode, my favorite place to run all of my servers. Visit linode.com/ATP and see for yourself why so many people like me choose Linode to run our stuff. So, first of all, they are a great host for the regular stuff that we used to use hosts for all the time. Compute instances, /cloud instances, /VPSs, these are all the same thing. They are the best at this. I've been with them for almost a decade now, using primarily that product. And it's amazing what you get at Linode for the price. So first of all, amazing value, right? They also have all sorts of different capabilities that you might need. So if you need a really small instance that prioritizes maybe price over everything else, they have that. I think it starts at $5 a month. It's amazing. Then if you need more resources, maybe you need more disk space, more CPU power, more RAM, they have amazing plans above that are all, in my experience, the best values in the business by far, and they always have been. And also, they have dedicated specialties. So if you need things like high memory plans, GPU compute plans, dedicated CPU plans, they have all that. You need more disk space than what they offer on the regular ones? They have block storage. You can have giant volumes if you need to. They also have, if you need something that's maybe an S3 compatible object storage, they have that. They have managed databases now. They have managed load balancers, managed backups, all of these things available at Linode, and all of this backed up by amazing support, an amazing API, amazing documentation, and at amazing values. So to me, honestly, you look at other hosts and it's no contest. Linode is the best. So see for yourself all this stuff at linode.com/ATP. Create your free account there, and you get $100 in credit to start looking around at Linode and trying stuff out. So linode.com/ATP. Free accounts there, get $100 in credit. Linode makes cloud computing fast, simple, and affordable, so you can focus on your projects, not your infrastructure. Thank you so much to Linode for hosting all my servers and sponsoring our show.
Moving on, finally, with regard to your recommendation to instrument your code, Marco, John was recommending to instrument your code and figure out ways to.
Oh yeah, but we're talking about ButtDB.
Yep. And so we were, did you just drop the name and I missed it? Shoot.
He's making a joke about what he called it last week to make it Googleable, call it ButtDB so you can find it instead of calling it SQLite.
Yes. Anyways, so ButtDB, you should instrument it. And so this way you can figure out how to debug concurrency issues. And we had a listener write and say, hey, you should check out this WWDC session, which we will link in the show notes, with Harjus Manga and Mike Ash. Mike Ash, who used to be independent and then got sucked into Apple, as so many people do, a few years back. And I'd seen it before, but had forgotten about it, and then rewatched it and was reminded that it's actually a very, very good session. And among other things, it will show you what they call a task forest, which this is in Instruments, I'm sorry. In Instruments, you can see a task forest, which shows you a hierarchical tree view of your tasks, which was super freaking cool. And I actually thought it was a really good, it was contrived, but a semi-real world example of why actors are important and how you use them the correct way and so on and so forth. The whole video is like 25, 30 minutes, and it's worth checking out.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool tool. What I was saying was to instrument for metrics on slow queries, how many queries are you running, how long do they take, to just find performance bottlenecks. And this is the type of thing that you do while you're developing your application to sort of make sure you're not doing something silly in terms of concurrency or to debug issues you're having. But obviously you can't run this instruments thing when it's running on other people's phones and stuff. And so that's where your telemetry and logging and everything will potentially save your butt to figure out hey, someone says when I go to this screen, it hangs for 2 seconds before the screen comes into view. Maybe you're logging of I see there's a slow query happening here. And then you would go back to this instruments thing and say, if this query is slow, can I make it not block the task? Am I using actors poorly? And really mostly just say, why is this query slow so I can fix it? Because he's got that choke point with ButtDB of all the queries go through this library. So if you're wondering if you've got slow queries, well, there's one place that you can instrument and for timings on every single one of your queries, and then you'll find that, or even just log the ones that take longer than X number of milliseconds. And then you only log the slow ones, and you can do that on everybody's phone, and then have a button in your UI, which I think Mark already has somewhere, which is hey, email me your logs or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. But yeah, the instruments thing is definitely cool too.
Yeah, I've been working on ButtDB a lot for the last week, and I've mostly just been, I learned yesterday, oh, wait a minute, I forgot to write a delete method. Whoops.
Never delete data. It's a append-only database.
Yeah, right.
Which is a thing. I think you need to just switch over to Xcode right now, right click, and go to refactor and just write ButtDB. Just go do it.
No, I like the name I've picked.
But ButtDB, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's the name you picked. So go change the name of your actual class to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and I did the Objective C compatibility layer yesterday and today. And boy, that was not fun. That was it was just because first I wrote this whole Swift version of the class with the little objects all over the place, and then when I went to try to use it, I learned, oh wait a minute, Objective C can't subclass a Swift class, even if it's an object class subclassing an S object. You just can't subclass it from Objective C. So I had to move a lot of that functionality into an Objective-C class, and it had to rewrite some stuff. It was a whole thing. So it's been a little unfun, but I've been able to keep most of it in Swift. And the way I've designed this so that the Objective-C support is only a few extra little files, and the whole library doesn't depend on those files. And so if you have a project, or if I in the future have a project where I don't need Objective-C compatibility, I can just omit those files, and the rest of it still builds just fine, and it's fine. So I'm trying to be very forward looking here with how I'm doing this. That being said, I still have not actually tried to integrate it into a functioning app yet. There's a thing in Overcast I need to build this month to start trying to track stats a little bit better for listening stats, because this is the month where the Spotify, what's it called? Spotify
Yearly
Replay?
Wrap.
Yeah, the Spotify Wrap. Yeah, it's when Spotify tells people in December, here's the artists you listen to the most this year, and then everyone posts them all over Twitter, and everyone starts emailing me asking, hey, when are you going to add this feature? What's my Overcast Wrapped? And so what I have to do really is, at some point, start recording better stats on how much time you spend listening to each show or whatever, and do that for a whole year. And so if I'm going to release this feature next December, the time to start doing that data collection is now, before January 1st, when it'll then be less complete.
Well, so like the Spotify thing and other podcast clients do, because I've seen some other people tweeting at us saying that we were their number one listen thing. That's what happens when you make shows that are this long. We get a lot of a lot of extra listen time in there. But like the people doing the Spotify things, I understand why they do it now, because it's kind of like, oh, the year is winding down. It's kind of the new year, and it's the time you do those types of things, right? But the year's not over. What if you listened to like hundreds of hours of some other podcast on December 30th and 31st, right? I know you could pick any arbitrary time in the year. And that's what I'm getting at with Marco trying to rush to get this feature done. Like, why? Why not just start your counting from January 15th? Well, it's because Spotify does it around this time. And this is the time when people are thinking about the end of the year. So it's probably wise that you do try to get it done in December. It just kind of annoys me that like you can't do any year-end accounting when the year hasn't ended yet. But,
I know, right?
That's what they do.
I mean, in all fairness, a lot fewer people listen to podcasts in the last couple of weeks of December than in the rest of the year.
You could go on a long road trip or something. You never know what's going to happen.
But anyway, yeah. So I haven't done any actual integration into an app yet. I think the async only nature of this library is going to prove to be a massive pain in the butt to integrate in any legacy code. That being said, I still want it to be designed this way. So, that's just going to be, in typical me fashion, I'm going to start in fifth gear and just slowly get myself going. And once I'm going, it's going to be great. But it's going to be a slow build. So we'll see.
With regard to an AskATP from last week, with regard to Xfinity Wi-Fi, I think one or all of us had said, it's a little bit weird using somebody else's bandwidth. And Clayton O'Neill wrote in to say the following: this actually does not use the customer's bandwidth. The cable modem is provisioned to have a completely different, quote, service flow, quote, for the alternative SSID. This service flow is effectively how DOCSIS enforces quality, not quality of service. Yeah, quality of service. And it is how cable providers sell you a specific tier service. For example, 75 down, 10 up. The Xfinity Wi-Fi service will have a separate service flow in addition to the service flow provisioned for the customer's service. And there's a whole article about this that's a little bit less explicit language, or not explicit language. It discusses it less explicitly and in a less nerdy way, but there's an article, we'll link in the show notes about this.
I mean, I understand what they're saying about dividing up the different flows or whatever, but in the end, it's the same cable leaving the people's house. And, maybe there's plenty of leftover bandwidth, so it doesn't affect the customer, but there's a reason services have crappy upload speed, and it's how they choose to apportion the bandwidth they have going to and from the house. And so, yeah, you're probably not screwing things up too much, but if you were to grab that and start uploading a massive amount, I would imagine that you could impact the other quote unquote flow. Maybe they do reserve bandwidth. I don't even know. But anyway, as you said, this is part of the service that you're paying for. So not using it out of some like form of politeness or because you feel bad is silly. You're paying for it. Xfinity service is bad in many other ways. At least take advantage of this perk.
And then finally, earlier this week, I took my iPad to my beloved picnic table. And I think we had discussed this like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I had said, my iPad wasn't on the appropriate Verizon cellular plan such that I didn't get ultra wideband. Well, I've since rectified that problem and I am getting ultra wideband. And I did a speed test and it got 4,373.71 megabits down. So that's 4 gigabits, almost 4.5 gigabits down, 300 megabits up.
Oh my God.
I used, in the span of this 30-second speed test, I used 6.5 gigs of data. And I think I get 15 or 30 in a month. So it was really wild. So I did the math. This is approximately 550 megabytes per second down. So at home, I get, in real world usage, I get something like 80 megabytes on a good day, and that's on a gigabit files connection. Sitting on a picnic table in a park in the greater Richmond area, I was getting 550 megabytes a second down. That is 85% of a standard CD in 1 second. Do you remember when you would download an album in the early Napster days? And I've told this story so many times in this program. And I would be sitting in my dorm at Virginia Tech and I would get a megabyte a second and go, holy smokes, this must be somebody else on campus because look how fast this is at a megabyte a second. Mm-hmm. And it would take an hour or two to download an entire CD's worth of stuff. I mean, not that any of us would ever do that. We would always pay for everything.
No,
but
of course not.
Hypothetically, if you were to do that in the early 2000s and it would take an hour, it would take 1 second or maybe a second and a half to download an entire CD worth of data. That's just bananas. Technology's cool.
It is really funny to me to think that how many seconds would it take to use up your entire data cap for the month?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. No, it's so true.
It's definitely measured in seconds. Oh man,
yeah,
that's
absolutely bananas.
Ridiculous. And I'm also kind of impressed that like the speed test architecture can serve things through all the way from wherever they're serving it to your device at 4 gigabits. Like that, nothing is throttling that along the way.
Yep, no, that's so true. And I mean, obviously, like so many people, when I had tooted about this, so many people were like, in a nice way, but like, okay, why? And honestly, I don't have a good answer for that, but it's just cool that you can do it. I don't know.
You're basically like playing Ghostbusters, where you're trapping those bits inside your iPad where they can't get out except for through the wired connection that runs at USB 2.0 speeds. Or no, actually, the iPads have Thunderbolt, don't they?
No, well, some of them do, and previously there were a couple. I think the 10.5. And then the first couple 12.9s before they had Thunderbolt, they had USB 3 speeds over Lightning. That was possible, and a few iPad models had that, but iPhones for some reason have never gotten that capability.
I don't know. It's just bananas. I think I told you when I was first using ultra wideband with my iPhone. I'm pretty sure I told the story already, but I was tethered via USB to my computer, and I did a speed test of my computer, and it was slower than dirt. And I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Oh. And then I tethered via Wi-Fi and suddenly it got way freaking faster. So bring on our USB-C iPhones is what I'm saying in a roundabout way. All right, let's talk topics. I wanted to just briefly call out, in part to prevent everyone and their mother from tweeting this at me, but also because I think it's freaking cool. ffmpeg has been ported to WebAssembly. Why? Not sure, but that's so freaking cool. And I just wanted to call that out.
What does this mean?
I guess you can run ffmpeg in the browser, but like, I'm not sure why you would, but I mean, WebAssembly is supposed to be pretty damn fast, right?
Someone should make a website where the URLs are the command line strings, like with the appropriate like translation, so it works as a URL. So you have to come up with the weird command line, and then you just paste it into the address bar, and then it runs it.
Right. That would be very cool. I mean, honestly, I don't know why this is. I'm not even sure why I think this is cool. Other than that, I think it's cool. And so I just wanted to call it to everyone's attention. This is ffmpeg wasm.netlify.app. We'll put a link in the show notes. But yeah, you can apparently like transcode stuff in the browser for fun and profit. I don't know. I just thought this was super cool.
We are brought to you this week by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything. Your products, your content, even your time. Squarespace makes it super easy to make all kinds of websites, and especially business websites now. So you can have things like member areas. You can monetize your content and expertise in a way that fits your brand. You can unlock new revenue streams for your business with member areas, free up time in your schedule by selling access to gated content like videos, online courses, or newsletters. And of course, you can sell other things. You can have online stores for products, whether those are physical or digital goods. Squarespace has all the tools you need to sell online. You can have all this backed up by SEO tools, so you can really make sure that you're maximizing your prominence among search results. And you can have analytics to see where people are coming from, which channels are most effective that you might be advertising in. You can improve your website and build marketing strategies based on your top keywords, your most popular products and content. So it's really everything you need at Squarespace. And all of this is backed by amazing support if you ever need it. But frankly, you probably won't, because Squarespace is super easy to use. And there's all sorts of problems that running websites in other ways, might have you deal with. Things like software patches and security updates and server maintenance, maybe handling load if you get like a lot of links all at once. Squarespace doesn't make you deal with any of that stuff. Like, it's all behind the scenes. They take care of all that for you. You never have to worry about it. It's amazing. So go to squarespace.com/ATP to start your free trial. No credit card is required. You can build the whole site in trial mode and see how you like it. When you're ready to launch, use offer code ATP to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Once again, squarespace.com/ATP to start that free trial. Offer code ATP at purchase to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring our show.
And we've had something in the show notes for about 13 years, and it's probably time to go ahead and talk about it. There's been a couple more ads added to basically everything you touch on an Apple device.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the ad slots already in a past show. We're like, oh, here's the new ad slots or whatever, but like there's fallout from that. I think we just discussed the fact that they were going to do it. They were going to add these ad slots, and this is where you can buy ads, and this is where they'll appear or whatever. But since then, we've been trying to let this run its course so we'd be able to say something conclusive about it, but it seems to kind of be in stasis at this point. So I guess we can talk about it the way it is now.
Yeah, so to recap very briefly, there's a bunch more ads either already here or coming in other places. On the App Store, the Today view has advertising on it now. It never used to. That's kind of like the landing page of the App Store, and it used to be exclusively curated content, which, although I didn't personally look at it very often, it was very, very good. Like anytime I looked at it, I was impressed. Anyone I've ever spoken to about it was impressed. It was good stuff. But now on the Today view, there's advertising. There's always been advertising in search. Alarmingly, on an app's detail page, and Marco in particular was talking about this a few weeks ago, there are also advertisements there. And when this first dropped, Apple just assumed the best as people want to do. And it turns out that the people who are most likely to buy advertising on the App Store are gambling apps and hookup apps and things like that. So a lot of people were pointing out that when you did a search for a app that will help you with getting over an addiction to gambling, well, what's getting advertised at the bottom? And this is a tweet or something. A tweet from user John. Put a link in the show notes. And so John was looking at the app Recover Me, which its subtitle is Manage a Gambling Addiction. At the bottom of the details page, you might also like Jackpot World, casino slots. Cool. That's great. That's not a bad look at all. And it's just, and they've said that there's going to be ads in Maps potentially, or maybe that's not been said, but it's been rumored. It's just, I don't know. It's hard for me not to just regurgitate what so many other very, very smart people have said about this. But one of the reasons I like Apple stuff so much, and I've gotten the same feeling from Sonos, and I used to get the same feeling from BMW and from Sony in the past, is that it just felt premium. It just felt like people who really gave a crap made this. And having ads kind of junking up everything, I feel like it's gone too far. And it makes my Apple stuff feel less premium. In the same way that like nickel and diming you over iCloud storage. I'm not going to be able to find it for the show notes, but I saw a tweet recently where it showed a graph of iCloud storage since like iCloud debuted, and it's a flat 5 gigabyte line since like 08 or no, it was like 2011 or something like that. It's silly stuff like that.
How fast could you fill that up over ultra wideband?
Yeah, right. So, apparently about 30 seconds. But anyways, it's silly things like that kind of nickel and dime my opinion of Apple and just make me feel like, this thing that used to just unabashedly make me happy just kind of feels yucky now. And I don't like it. And I understand that services seems to be the golden child now. And, obviously Apple has an interest, if not a responsibility, in making as much money as they possibly can. I'm behind on my podcasts, and I was listening to the talk show with Gruber and Federico Viticci from, I don't know, probably like a month or two ago. And they were talking about this quite a lot. And I think they had both of them had a lot of really smart things to say about it. But I don't know, at what point does Apple look around and realize, this is making us look gross and crummy, and maybe they just don't care as they're making piles and piles of money. But not only does it just make them feel gross, but I think that this is just making the whole antitrust, like Tim Sweeney and Elon Musk, it's an Apple tax. Like, I really don't want Elon Musk or Tim Sweeney to be my champion on this issue, but I kind of agree with them. Like, this is all just, it's just all yucky, and I don't like it. I don't make it make sense. One of you, please.
I remember when Steve Jobs was talking about iAd, I think, like his pitch, which was that keynote search tool that Stephen Hackett linked to today, where it's like a full text search of Apple keynotes. But anyway, Steve Jobs was talking about iAd, which was one of their early ad services, and I remember how he talked about it, kind of using the model that he grew up with and the model that we kind of grew up with, where he was saying like, you as a user, when you see these ads, you're going to like these ads because Apple has a hand in making them, and they're going to be nice ads, right? That was why this was going to be an Apple ad service. Like, it's not going to be a punch the monkey, right? Because Apple is involved in this iAd process. You'll like these ads. I don't remember what the quote was, but it was something like, there'll be ads that you want to see, right? And that's very similar to the model from all of our youth, where like you'd watch a TV show and there'd be ads on it. Those ads got on the TV show because advertisers connected with the television network and said, hey, we'd like to advertise on your show. And they would work something out between them, and they would pay the money and their ad would go up, right? the networks performed an important function there, which is like, so, Coca-Cola or whatever would contact to the networks, and there'd be some advertising department that sells ads. If you said you wanted to put a casino gambling ad on the Cosby Show, NBC probably wouldn't let you. There was some editorial control about what kind of ads go on there. There was at the very least, there were humans involved, right? If you wanted to put an ad for, Playboy magazine or your, hardcore porn, whatever, on a particular show that was supposed to be a family show, the network wouldn't take that ad. They wouldn't let you do it. They exercised control, and, there were people involved in that process because the network would be protecting their show and their brand. Bottom line is they would, it was a human to human sales relationship. One of the innovations of the internet, and the innovation that has, powered Google to great heights of money and fame, is you can take the people out of that equation and instead just make a quote unquote efficient market for selling advertisements, where you have advertisement slots, and then advertisers bid on who wants to fill that slot, and the slot goes to the highest bidder. And boy, doesn't that make you a lot more money. You don't have to pay an ad sales staff, and you always get the maximum amount that people are willing to pay for a given ad slot. And that's what Apple has done for advertising in the App Store. They're like, well, we don't need to sell these individual ad slots to individual people and have people involved. Why don't we just do what everyone else does on the internet with advertising and use the power of the internet to make a site where you can bid on these ad slots, and that will make us more money, and it'll be hands off, and it'll be a self-service type of thing. And that's how you get casino ads, because who's going to pay the most money for ad slots? People who get the most revenue for a person who gets roped into the ad, and casinos make a lot of money from people who go use their apps because it's kind of the function of a casino app. And if it's like, it's almost like Apple was taken aback by that. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? I'm sure the advertising people knew it was going to happen. It's what happens whenever you open up an ad slot to the highest bidder. You get the mesothelioma or whatever that, asbestos, cancer law firm lawsuit things. Like, whoever has the most money to spend will get the slot. And it may not be who you would want to have that slot, but you don't have people involved. What Apple said back on October 26th was, there's a statement from Apple: "We have paused ads related to gambling and a few other categories on App Store product pages." That is the extent of the statement. They use the word pause, which doesn't mean they've stopped, but it does show that Apple had decided that they didn't like how this was going. Maybe they didn't like being yelled at for having casino ads. Maybe they said, we know those ads are going to go to casinos because they have the most money and they're going to be the top bidder, but we're okay with that. But then it turns out people weren't, and we stopped. Or maybe they were surprised, and someone somewhere in the organization said, I didn't realize that casinos would be the top bidder for all these categories. It's like, if you didn't realize that, like, what world were you? I think there's some people were still in the Steve Jobs world where they were envisioning the ads would be like the premium ads you would see on, the top-rated television program in 1987, right? Hand-selected ads, or the ads that go on the Super Bowl. They're expensive ads, artfully made, and it's like, no, it's just, the Super Bowl's shown cryptocurrency ads too, so it's probably not that much. But hey, the cryptocurrency ads have movie stars in them. Anyway, that's what it feels like to me, that Apple didn't realize, didn't fully take on board what it means to sell ad slots to the highest bidder in an automated process that does not involve humans. This is what that looks like. I don't know how they didn't know that. Didn't you see Punch the Monkey? Didn't you live through the internet? That's what happens. And yes, it is much more efficient than having a sales staff, but you're not going to get, to Casey's point, that sort of high-touch experience where everything is quality. You're not going to get that thing that Steve Jobs was talking about, ads, like, oh, you'll like these ads. No, we won't like these ads. And it is also worse that, hey, you know what they're advertising? Stuff in their own app store. Like, these are apps that Apple sells, which is itself another, not problem, but another sort of decision point that we've talked about in the past. What apps should Apple allow in the App Store? On the one hand, we're like, we hate that Apple has the control to say what is allowed in the App Store. But on the other hand, we don't like casino games for children. And all this gets back to the root problem, which is there's only two places where you can sell mobile applications. You can sell them in the Android App Store, you can sell them in the Apple App Store, and everything else is a rounding error. And that, of course, is the root problem. And that's what puts Apple into these no-win scenarios where we yell at them if they don't allow apps on the App Store, but we yell at them if they allow casino games for children on the App Store. And then we yell at them some more if they programmatically sell ad slots that are bought by casino games for children or adults.
I think what got to me the most about this it was twofold. I think number one, having all of these, like, not only accidentally irrelevant ads, but intentionally irrelevant ads. Like, like the ad unit that sparked all this is the under, if you go to an app page in the App Store, you scroll all the way down and it says you might also like. And it's a category that Apple Search Ads added, and they told us that they were going to add it, a couple of months ahead of time, and you could go in, like I buy Search Ads for Overcast, you could go in, you could pre-order these a week beforehand, and they would start running on this day or whatever. Like, it was not a surprise, but I think the surprise was that this was, I think, the first type of search ad that you could explicitly anti-target. You could, other search ads, the way they launched, when they first launched search ads, whenever that was, 5-6 years ago, they launched them very carefully. That was the first time they were ads in the App Store. They knew that they had to be careful, and they were being careful. And one of the things the way they designed that system was, you can bid on keywords. You can bid on any keywords you want. You can type in whatever you want, any arbitrary keywords, but they would only show your ad in a context where they thought it was relevant based on their relevance algorithms. Now, their relevance algorithms are terrible, but they were at least trying to be relevant, and they would occasionally succeed in that. But this ad unit, it explicitly was anti-targetable. Like, you could select on how to target it. You could actually say, show it in other categories that my app is not considered relevant in. That's why you could get casino ads showing up on podcast apps. Because you would think, if you look at the bottom of the Overcast page right now, you might also the actual organic results are almost all podcast players, or at least things that are adjacent to podcast players. There's also Pocket, which I guess, that's relevant. I wish it was Instapaper, but, whatever. And everything else is relevant. And then the ad for that I'm seeing right now is Wolf Game, Wild Animal Hunters. The hunt is on. And it appears to be a game where you play as a wolf and you go eating other animals and possibly fighting other wolves, which is, frankly, a little close to dogfighting for my comfort. But, oh well, I don't know what this game is. So that has nothing to do at all with podcast apps or any of the other results that are in that list. And so, on one hand, this offended me because it allowed us to have all these totally unrelated apps, some of which were offensive to a lot of people, myself included, like all the gambling stuff. And, it had that problem of, all of a sudden you're seeing dramatically irrelevant results in places where they make no sense whatsoever, and it's just insulting. And then the second part of that is that it revealed, for, I think, one of the first times ever at this level, it revealed quite how large of an amount of the money that Apple makes from the App Store is coming from really seedy places. That they are making gobs and gobs of money. And by the way, this is a large chunk of what they call services revenue. The term services revenue, when they use it, is a wonderful euphemism. And you think, when you hear that, you think things like iCloud, Fitness Plus, TV Plus, you think of those things that are kind of more directly, obviously, services that people can sign up for and pay for, and they serve them in some way. That's what you think of. But massive chunks of Apple services revenue are the deal to make Google the default search engine in Safari, and also App Store revenue, which is mostly the 30% cut, and then obviously some portion of it is now ads. That's most of services revenue. And services revenue is one of Apple's biggest growth areas in the last few years, as their hardware businesses have largely matured and have seen slowing growth. So it's a very important area of the company in finance, analytics ways, and stock price and analysts. It's very important for all those reasons. And yet, when you look at what it actually is, such huge parts of it are this gross Google deal, and then this gross area of App Store revenue, which is most apps. So, what is the App Store revenue? Well, it's, some of it is going to be 15% of all my subscriptions, and the other indie apps that we make, and, good games and stuff like that. But a lot of it, probably the vast majority of it, is stuff that Apple probably would be more comfortable if we didn't see. casinos, scammy dating apps, overpriced subscription scams for apps that charge for a weekly subscription for some calculator app or something. Like
they broke it down in one of the trials. Wasn't it like 85% games?
Yeah,
or something like that. It was some massive app store income from the app store is basically games. It's games and everything else, and it was like 85%. Now all those games aren't crappy, but boy, a lot of them are, right? Like because you're not getting it, and even the games that are quote unquote good, like even like the high profile, like this is a high class, high profile game like Candy Crush, that is a standard bearer for casino games for children or casino games for adults for that matter. Like they do not shady things, but they leverage human psychology to extract more money from you in exchange for hopefully the fun that you're getting. And a lot of those games, even the quote unquote good ones, depending on how you feel about it, may cross a line in terms of exploitive mechanics, where their main concern is not allowing you to have fun. The main concern is finding ways to get money out of you. And there's a balance to be struck there because they need money to make the game. Like I'm not saying don't pay for games, but kind of like we're kind of all feeling with these ads in the App Store, the relationship between how do I give you money for the thing that I want to get? That's delicate. People want to play games for free, but I think people also understand if you want games to be made, you have to give money for them. But what is the exchange there? How much money do I give you when in exchange for what? There's lots of different ways to slice that up. And I think in the games industry in particular, there's been lots of experimentation in terms of what relationship is sustainable and makes people not feel abused, but also makes the developer be able to continue to make the app. And I feel like almost everything in the App Store is on the wrong side of that line in terms of how it makes the customers feel.
Well, and not necessarily almost everything, but almost all the money. Like where almost all the money is going.
I'm talking about games. All that 85% of game revenue for in-app things, like even the very best of the best games, I feel like the way they make money is not on the right side of that 50% point in terms of how the people who pay that money feel about the relationship. Whereas I would say, for example, console games, the very best console games have found a way to make money that the players doesn't make the players hate themselves, right? I mean, to give an example, like in Destiny or like Fortnite even, you sell cosmetics, which sounds like it shouldn't work, but Lord, does it work, right? And players feel okay about it because if you don't want to buy the cosmetics, you don't have to. But people do want to buy the cosmetics. But if you don't buy them, it doesn't make, you're not going to get killed by someone who bought a better gun than you. Like, it's not pay to win, it's pay to look fancy. And that relationship mostly people are mostly okay with. It can still be exploitive, right? But the whole energy mechanics and paying to, watch this 30-second ad to continue further, or pay, like you were saying with that Minecraft thing, paying a weekly fee and pay to pay to compile your thing or whatever.
It was pay to save your work.
Yeah,
it was literally pay to save.
What? That's
each
right.
time.
That's so far across the line that just no one feels good about that.
That's just bananas.
Yeah, but I feel like, when you look at, I think it's so easy for us and probably for most Apple executives and employees and shareholders, it's probably it's so easy for us to not see this, inconvenient underbelly of what's really going on in the App Store and what's really going on in revenue and services revenue there, because it's so easy to just look at the apps that we use and that we care about, and most people. The iPhone is such a mature platform. It's been around for so long that most people are not just casually browsing the App Store as a pastime to look for new apps anymore. Like, that's one of the reasons why new user acquisition costs are so high, and why Apple's trying to capture all that with search ads, because it used to be a thing where when the App Store was new and when people were getting iPhones for the first time for years, it was a good pastime. Hey, let's go check out what's new in the App Store this weekend or whatever. Like, you go browse it casually just for fun, like the same way you'd browse Twitter or something. Let me go look at some apps. But that doesn't happen much anymore. And so I think it's so easy for all of us and all of them to not see this if we're not looking for it. And again, part of the reason why this new ad unit was so offensive is that it just revealed it all to us. everyone started looking at these ads and started seeing all of these high bidders for these ads were all these really disgusting apps.
Yeah, and it reminded people those apps exist. Forget about the fact that they have an ad slot. It just reminded people, hey, just so you know, these are things on Apple's App Store. They've been there. They've always been there. And you don't want to think about them, and you think you're not the type of person who would use them, but here they are, and they're there. And that gets back to the rock and a hard place I was talking about before. That part of us would say, like, I want Apple to curate the App Store so it's only the good apps. So the other part of us says, why is Apple being so restrictive about what they allow in the App Store? And you can't have both. It's the problem that Apple has made for itself by choosing not to have side loading, to try to find some impossible balance between having an App Store that allows, that is open to innovation in apps, but also that keeps out the crap. And they're not doing that now. We can tell which direction we can tell which way they picked. All right,
right, and they're making a killing from it, and like that's I think the most uncomfortable part of this. It is not necessarily that these apps exist in the App Store, which is its own question, which can be debated, but that it became so obvious to us in such a short time. Oh my God, Apple is making all of this money. This is where so much of their profit and growth is coming from. Is scams and garbage and low quality, low rent, inconvenient apps that they really would rather the public not really pay much attention to or not know about, and
things that exploit their customers in ways that the customers themselves feel somewhat a little icky about. Again, finding a way that is the game developers themselves. It's on them to find a way to make a relationship where that both sides feel okay about. And instead, what game developers have done is become very, very good at finding the most efficient way to extract money from people, no matter how they feel.
Don't minimize the outright trickery also. Like, there's a lot of actual fraud and BS going on too.
Yeah, I do think the scam apps don't make as much money as the legitimately good app. Again, sorry to use Candy Crush as an example, but like, it's a legitimately good, fun game that's well made and also uses every trick in the book to get money out of people, right? I think those are the real money makers. The actual scam ones, it feels bad when we see it happening because we think no one should ever be scammed by this, and we see the big numbers like this. We estimate like those things that we estimate this made $1 million. Like, Candy Crush probably makes that in a week, right? So it's crime does pay, but making a really good app that also extracts money from people efficiently pays way more for a longer period of time.
I think you're right individually, but I think collectively, the collective damage done by scam and misleading apps, and like trickily price subscriptions and everything, I think that's collectively quite a lot. I think you are right that in general, the big whale apps are doing most of the But
yeah, I do wonder who people blame for those things. Although, speaking of damage, like, this is part of the meta commentary about this from the people in our circles, is about the reputational damage that Apple is taking by engaging in this thing. So here's a quote from Gruber that I think boils this down to sort of the different thing that they're doing. I'll put a link in the show notes to this. This is a post from October. Sorry. It remains true that Apple is not monetizing the information we store on our devices or in iCloud, but they're certainly monetizing our attention and their exclusive hold on that attention for all apps and games for iOS. Apple's business model is no longer the straightforward selling of great products, and these new ads in the App Store are not designed to make anything better other than Apple services bottom line. So, that's, again, harkening back to the old days. It's like, Apple just makes really good products and they sell it to us for a lot of money, and that makes them billions of dollars. And this is like, but they also sell our attention, and that doesn't make us feel better, but it does make Apple money. And it is a change in our relationship with Apple. The relationship before was like, we pay really huge margins, right, for the things that we buy from them. But in the end, we're satisfied by that. And when they come out with a fancy new thing, we want the fancy new thing. So we pay them the money. And that is what has made Apple its billions of dollars. Like, people didn't buy the iPhone. It's like the iPhone was not didn't make Apple tons of money because it made them tons of service revenue, at least initially. Initially, they sold a lot of phones at like 40% margins, and they still do that, and it makes them a lot of money. But now this App Store, the ad stuff is not making the products better for its users. You could argue that it's making the platform better for developers, because developers do need some way to reach their customers. But if you look at what actually happens if you programmatically sell an ad slot, it's not like the developers that you want to connect with customers, the people making the best applications that Apple features on stage and gives awards to, those aren't filling the ad slots. They probably don't have enough money to fill the ad slots. It's the casino games that are lurking as the 85% thing underneath it all. And then we'll put a link to MJ Sai's blog post where he collected a bunch of comments from people, but a lot of them are just like talking about the reputational and brand damage that's being done by this, because most people didn't think of Apple as a company that sells their attention. because Apple tends not to be in that business. And to that end, there was one thing that did come out about this was there was a report in the information that tried to get some information from inside Apple about this. This is a Mac Rumors summary of it, but we'll put a link to the information as well. The Mac Rumors summary, it says, a new report revealed internal disagreements within Apple, causing some employees who work on the company's ad business to raise concerns that showing more ads to iPhone users ruins the premium experience that's long been offered to its customers. Makes sense, right? Because it's not what they're used to. Here, this is directly from the information report on this. It says, one person familiar with Apple's ad business said the company doesn't harbor ambitions to compete at the same level as Meta and Google in digital advertising, nor does it plan to build an advertising network similar to those of its rivals that would serve ads to users outside its own apps and services. The person said ad executives are pleased with revenue growth based on Apple's existing ad spots and don't plan to significantly increase the number of ads on phones to meet growth targets. So this is from inside Apple saying, yeah, we added more ad slots, but we're not going full Google here. We're not just like, hey, we're going to sell ads against every piece of information that we have, because that'll make us tons more. And it would make them tons more money. That is Google's business model. We sell ads against what we know about people, right? And Facebook's business model. It's a good business model in terms if you want to make a lot of money. But this person is saying, we're not going down that road, but we added these ad slots, but we're not just going to keep pursuing that to get more and more growth. Is that true? Or will it be irresistible for them to do that? But regardless of whether this is 100% true, I think that they have crossed a threshold here with these ad slots, because it, like we were saying, it's revealed things that people would rather not see. And I think it's just a bridge too far. If this is the truth, if this Apple ad executive is leaking to the information that they don't want to actually pursue this to the extent that Google does, they just want to have enough ad slots to give their developers a way to advertise. This is not helping. This is hurting. It's making people think of Apple in a new way. It's making people less pleased with their phone, kind of like the search results when you try to search for an app and instead of finding the app that you wanted, you get a big blue ad for a different app. Most people don't like that, both because Apple's relevance is bad and because it just seems like it's getting in your way. It's not making the experience better for users, right? And that was before these new ad slots. These new ad slots at the bottom of the products, most people probably won't see, but I just feel like this is crossing a line with at least the nerdy people in our circles, maybe not regular people, right? And I do think it will be hard for Apple's advertising folks to resist adding another slot, turning a dial to monetize this or whatever. Despite the fact that they say that they're not going down that road, maybe that's what every one of these ad executives is going to say after they add every new ad slot for the next 10 years. And you'll wake up one day and every part of Apple's applications are filled with ads.
Yeah, I mean, because it's such, when you talk about adding ad slots everywhere, it's such a slippery slope. It's so easy. Once, again, as I was just saying, how, when they added the very first ads to the App Store, the very first search ads, they were very careful about it. They still did a really mediocre job, but they were very careful about it, at least. And they were very sloppy about this one, because now it's like, well, once you have ads, what is it to add? Hey, look, there's some real estate down there. It's kind of out of the way. It's below the fold. We could just add a few more. Just add, hey, what's one more? It's such a slippery slope with ads. I know. I've been there. I run ad-based businesses and have for 20 years. I'm very aware of the pressures here that result from this. But you do have to worry about the experience, and it matters a lot. We had many years ago. We started out doing this podcast. Once we got going and started having ads, we briefly had 2 ads per show, and then pretty early on went to 3 because it just the length of the show made sense. We have 6 minutes of ads in a 2-hour show. No one really cares. But we have a format, and where we put them, what kind of ads we take, etc. And we've gotten so many offers over the years to, hey, you could make a lot of money if you do a 30-second pre-roll ad, which means before the show starts, the very first thing you hear is an ad. And there's a reason why a lot of podcasts do that, because they're very high priced. They make a lot of money. And we said no, because that is not the format of our show. And that's not the experience we wanted to have. And we think the ads we have are enough. And that's why we've had 3 ads, and it's been fixed at 3 ads for something like 6 years. We don't
programmatically sell them in an auction that run by a human being. Human being sells our ads, and we choose which ads go on the show. Obviously, we're much smaller. We couldn't programmatically sell them, right? But
we totally could.
Well, But anyway, it's like the whole point is it is more quote unquote efficient, like the magic of the internet. Wow, we don't have to have salespeople and we can just have people bid and we'll always make sure we get the maximum money out of the advertisers. And it's like, yeah, but what are you trading for that? Like, we know what you're trading for. We know what that looks like. But every ad would be casino ads or mesothelioma ads, right? And that's not what we want the show to be. And so we're making less money and paying someone to sell our ads and everything. But in the end, we think we make a better product and blah, 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 right? And we're small potatoes, but like it's the same exact decision for companies the size of Apple, Google, and Facebook. And unlike Google and Facebook, Apple has a really, really good way to make a ton of money that doesn't involve ads. It's a proven business model. It really makes a lot of money. Now, people in the chat room keep yelling growth, growth, growth. It's like, oh, it makes a lot of money, but it doesn't have growth or whatever. That's supposed to be the lesson that Apple is always trying to teach the rest of the industry, that if you chase growth, you will catch nothing, right? What you should be doing is, we said this before, like make great products, make things that people like, and in the end, that will actually make you more money and give you more growth than pursuing the other thing. But everyone else says, no, ignore that, chase growth, right? And Apple has been, historically one of the best companies in the entire world at resisting that urge, which is why they have all this money, right? It's not, they don't have all this money because the service revenues has made them the richest company in the world. No. The resistance to pursuing things like this is what has made them the richest company in the world. That is the lesson of Apple of, the last several decades. And this is just like, one part of the company going down a dark path that we don't want them to go down. And this statement from inside Apple makes me hope that that this is not going to consume the company from the inside out. But, I guess the final little bit here is not a great sign. But speaking of ads and places where they can appear, every one of us who uses Xcode has been recently annoyed by a dialog box that pops up in Xcode saying, "Hey, did you know you could use what is it called, Xcode in the cloud or
Xcode
whatever?
Cloud,
yeah, Xcode Cloud to compile this. Xcode Cloud is a thing that will like build your applications on cloud servers, and if you have a complicated application or lots of unit tests, or you want to farm it out to more different kinds of devices, it's cool. It's a good product. It's a good service. Apple should make this. I don't have any objection to this product. What we object to is, I just hit build and run on my application and you popped up a dialog saying, hey, you can do the Xcode Cloud. That's a freaking ad. And when I dismiss it, like I remember, I think the original dialog box, the only choices were like yes or like later or something.
Oh, that's like the most I want to punch somebody in the face whenever I see a dialogue like that says like maybe later, when I just want to say no, I never want to do this.
They changed it. They changed the button in an Xcode update to say like yes, and like I don't know if it says yes, but whatever it says like the positive one, and then the other one says dismiss, which at least is better than later, because later is a lie. Later is like, but here's the thing. You hit dismiss, right? You're not saying later, you hit dismiss, but you'll be seeing that dialogue again.
I believe it was every build and archive, I think.
I don't know if it's everyone, but it would pop up again, and it's like, get out of my face. Like, and this is the worst, because this is a good service that is useful for the people who need it and may be worth money for the people who want it. And it's an Apple service. It's not a casino game. It is a legitimate thing. But seriously, dirtying up your IDE by popping up this dialogue in our face? Like, I understand you want developers to be aware this feature exists. I get that. Lots of apps have an onboarding experience to say, hey, you might not know this, but in this menu, here's a new feature we want you to look out. Fine, do it once. We all see the things in the upper right-hand corner of macOS when we do a macOS update, the ones that tell us what's new in the OS. Whatever. Like, it's annoying. You turn it off. You can just turn off notifications for tips and you'll never see it again. Right? But like, we're fine with that. It's like, hey, I want you to know there's new features in the new OS you upgraded. But that's it. Just one time. You get that once. So this, I mean, they're not... Is this part of the same ad brush? No, but someone is involved with trying to make enough money with Xcode Cloud to pay for its development and maintenance. I understand that. But if the go-to move is, hey, we just made this product and we have to pay for all these servers, we need enough people to sign up for it to make it worth our while. We want to make this new service profitable. How can we do that? If the go-to move is like, well, lots of developers use Xcode. Why don't we put an ad in Xcode? And why don't we have it come up every time they do build an art? It's like, no, stop. Don't do that. Like, I understand you can do that, and it's right there in front of you, but that's not the Apple move. And by the way, we'll put it in the show notes. Apparently, there's a defaults write command that you can do for com.apple.dt.xcode, where you set Xcode Cloud upsell prompt enabled and set that to false. I love they call it the upsell prompt. So they know what they're doing. So you can disable it.
I don't want to have to run an ad blocker for my developer environment.
For your freaking IDE. It's ridiculous.
Like this. Oh, my word. Yeah, but again, it's like this is the corrupting influence of like ads and services revenue upsells. Like they're just going to keep doing this. Look, we've just, we're not really a financial podcast because we don't care and we don't know anything about it. But you can look around the industry and you can see like this is a bad time for the economy around tech companies, especially. Like we're in a serious downturn. We're probably nowhere near the end of it. All the big tech companies are doing these massive layoffs. Like, Apple at least has done a hiring freeze, not necessarily not layoffs yet, but obviously times are getting tight. We're in a crunch right now, and Apple has had trouble for years now trying to keep one-upping their previous sales numbers. Trying to keep the growth going because they've been so successful over time. They've made so much money over time. It's hard to keep making more money. Like when you're at those levels, it's very hard to keep growing.
And they have been. Like that's the other thing. It's hard to, and also they have been.
Right, but that is slowing down, and it isn't because their products suck or anything. It's just because these industries are all maturing. Everyone has phones now. Everyone has...
Well, not everyone has phones because Apple can't make enough phones to even meet demand due to the COVID stuff in China. So there's that.
Right. Well, that's a separate problem.
That is, but it is, as they would say in the financial calls, a headwind that Apple is going to have to deal with.
Right. But anyway, the point is like, we're in tough times for that continued growth to keep going for the whole tech industry. I mean, many of whom are doing much worse. But as these times are getting a little bit more tough for Apple to maintain their growth and their expectations and possibly their stock price, like they're going to keep tightening these screws. We're going to keep having more and more upsells. The prices are going to go up. The capabilities that you get for free are going to go down. The upsell points are going to get more persistent and more in your face, and there's going to be more of them. And anywhere they can squeeze harder, they're going to squeeze harder. That's why I get concerned when I see moves like, putting more search ads everywhere, because I know they're going to just keep going on this. Anything that they get away with in terms of like their whole business doesn't collapse and there isn't a giant PR, outburst, anything that they can kind of slip by and wear people down with, they're going to keep going and do more of those things.
That's the pessimistic take, but like the statement from Inside Apple is that they explicitly saying that they don't plan to do that. This is like an anonymous leak, so it's not. I doubt it's like Apple PR speaking through this leaking thing. It doesn't seem like that's the plan, but we can regardless of what they might say, the reason we're talking about this is we see on the outside new things like that coming out, and we think they're crossing a line, the thing in Xcode and these ad slots, and it's just it's. Like they are doing that, and I think that's the only thing you can say. Now, whether they take the lesson from that and back up again, if they want to look at like what is the lessons of the great success story in the technology market of our lifetime, which is Apple. The lesson is when things were going bad for the whole tech industry, Apple's strategy then under iCEO Steve Jobs or whatever stated many times that everyone in the industry was sad and their heads were down and things were bad and it was a dot-com bust and all sorts of terrible stuff was going on. And the Apple strategy was, we're going to innovate our way out of the downturn or the recession or whatever the words were. They'd always say, we're going to innovate our way out of it. What we're going to do here is, unlike everybody else who is like running scared and firing everybody and trying to figure out how to make money by selling punch the monkey ads or whatever, we're going to do something different. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to invest in ourselves. We're going to spend more money. We're going to hire more people. We're going to undertake more projects that cost us more money and burn more of our capital and more time, because we think the only way out of this downturn is to innovate our way out of it, or whatever the catchphrase was. Like basically, we're going to figure out how to make the iMac and the iPhone and the iPad, and that's what's going to save us, not let's scramble to run ads against everything that we have or whatever. Again, against the instinct of other people, which is like, hey, business school, we need to find a way to make money, turn all the money dials up in the company, right? I would hope that as things enter a downturn, that they pursue that strategy. That what we're seeing now is not the strategy of a downturn into trying to make growth grow, but instead what it is the exuberance of success and saying, we make money everywhere, we turn all the dials up, everything's going great. And as things get worse for the industry, that Apple finds its previous, strategy, which is, that's not the move. The move is, because we're Apple and have $1 bajillion, even when we didn't have $1 bajillion, we did this. The move is, reinvest, like, yeah, maybe tighten down, focus or whatever, but, come out with the great thing. Let's really work on that headset. Let's figure out the car, whatever they're going to do, right? Let's make Macs great again, which they did. That's the move when things are in a downturn, is not now's the time to scramble and find a way we can scrape more pennies from people by putting, Xcode Cloud ads in everyone's IDE.
Yeah, but I don't think modern Apple has those sensibilities anymore. Like literally, you're right. Like in that one big tech downturn when Steve Jobs took over, his strategy was let's make our products better. Tim Cook's strategy appears to be let's cover our products with ads for casinos.
But I think that is a strategy of peak. Like I think that's a strategy of things are going great, and it's a lagging indicator. We don't get to see what Apple has decided to do until much later when that actually does it. But I feel like if we actually enter a really bad tech downturn for, it's barely been touching Apple, but I feel like the manufacturing stuff in China is really going to touch Apple, and that's going to hit their revenue.
Wait till their holiday quarter results come in, and there's not a lot of iPhone sales in them.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be bad for them, right? But I hope what this does is, and the whole discussion around this whole issue with ads, I hope that that what we're seeing was the last burst of exuberance of the go rah rah. Apple always continues to grow, right? And instead, they find if they need to find other areas for growth, they're available to them, and they're pursuing them. The whole let's get sports people to watch Apple TV, let's get more people signed up for Apple TV. Like there are other growth opportunities that have that don't destroy your brand, right? Getting more people to sign up for Apple TV Plus because they like the TV shows, that's a clean win. If you can do that, do it, pursue it, right? That's service revenue that we're not complaining about. People love Severance. They want to sign up for Apple TV Plus to watch it. Thumbs up. That's the equivalent of making the iMac. You made a good show that people want, and they signed up for your service so they could see the thing. Good. Do that. Selling more ad slots, not good. Don't do that.
Yeah, because that's a service. Like when you're offering something that people want for a reasonable price to them, that is a service you are offering to them. If you're going to call it services revenue, that's first of all, that's the story they probably tell themselves. But also, that's a good service. That fits within Apple's expertise. That is the best of Apple, is making something that people like, doing a good job of it, and selling it for the maximum price people will tolerate in that category. But we're happy to pay it, most of us, most of the time, because it's a good product. That is how Apple should and usually has, operated their business. And I worry that we haven't seen stuff really hit the fan yet with Apple and its expectations with the stock market and everything. Like, I think we're in for a rude awakening over the next few months, and we are just going to have these screws tightened so much more than we think. And I hope I'm wrong. Please prove me wrong, Tim Apple. But I am worried. I'm really worried because I already see the direction they're going. And because they have so much lock-in, it's hard for any of their metrics to go down in a meaningful way that would actually kind of wake them up here. They are still sensitive to negative press. That's why the casino ads got, quote, paused on that ad slot. But there's only so much negative press that can be generated by like small paper cuts. If they do something really bad, like casino ads, on gambling recovery apps, that'll get bad press. But all these little paper cuts of minor ads and minor upsell opportunities all over the place here and there, those don't get the bad press. And so I worry that they've made so much money. They're so wildly successful in so many ways. And they're so good at smelling their own farts and thinking they're just wonderful. And I mean that in the most loving way, Apple, but it's true. That I think they don't see the paper cut nature of things enough. The highest up people in the company who are in charge of such directions and decisions are not seeing these things or are not sensitive to these things. Similar to the problems that our Twitter owner friend has, where he has surrounded himself only with yes men and with numbers and things that support his worldview. I think Apple suffers from that a lot of the time, where a lot of the higher ups at Apple seem to be making decisions without all the information, or with bad information, or with an inability to read the room. That's going to really hurt them in this area. They're going to keep adding these paper cuts and these little, annoying missteps and these reputation and brand eroding factors into their user experience. And I don't think they have a good feedback loop up at the top for them to really say, like, hey, you know what? This is kind of making things worse, and this might not be worth, the dollar that we're going to make from this today might not be worth the $10 we're going to lose over time from the damage it causes. Like, I don't think the higher up people think that way at Apple. I don't think they have the right sensibilities or priorities to think that way, and I think they've demonstrated that over the last decade very effectively. That's why I'm concerned about this. I don't have faith in the leaders to think this way. They're really good at running operations and making money, but they're not really good at avoiding paper cuts in their product experiences and properly valuing those long term. They're really not good at that. They've repeatedly shown themselves not to be good at that, and now that they are going to face challenges in the things they are good at, the operations and the money, they're going to start tightening those product screws and increasing the paper cut load, because that's how they know how to fix those problems, and they don't care about the cost of these problems.
I will say, though, part of the report was also that there was internal disagreement and that employees don't like it. So maybe the asset that Apple needs to leverage here is all the rank and file employees who don't want Apple to be like this, because I feel like Apple employees do, to some extent, have influence over what the company does. It sounds like silly to do, of course. Aren't the employees the only thing that influences what Apple does? Well, certain employees, not all employees, right? It is a hierarchy. It is not a democracy, right? But internal agitation can move the needle a little bit. It's not the way you, like, to your point, Marco, like, if you had internal agitation to do the right thing, but you didn't have Steve Jobs there who is receptive to that or who already agreed with it, they wouldn't have dug themselves out of the hole that they were in. Like, leadership in the end needs to be on board with that. I'm just not as pessimistic about Apple's leadership as you are. I agree that they definitely have blind spots and often seem to be living in a different universe than we are, but I think if they heard this conversation, they would mostly agree with all the things I said about, like, what Apple had done in the past. It's just that they think they're doing that now, and we're telling them you're not doing that as much as you think you are.
Thanks to our sponsors this week, Squarespace, Kolide, and Linode. And thanks to our members who support us directly. You can join at atp.fm/join. And we will talk to you next week.
Now the show is over. They didn't even mean to begin, 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. John didn't do any research. Marco and Casey wouldn't let him, 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. And you can find the show notes at atp.fm. And if you're into Twitter, you can follow them at CASEYLISS. So that's Casey Liss, MARCOARMENT, Marco Arment, SIRAC, USA Syracuse. It's accidental. They didn't mean to. Accidental. Tech podcast so long.
Tell us the name of your database framework. What's the point of having a secret name? Is it embarrassing? Is it a sexual position? Like, what?
No, it's called ButtDB.
Yeah, sure it is.
No, all right. It's called Blackbird because I like the plane, okay?
There you go. See,
What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
I didn't want to, name it and then have everyone tell me, there's a million other things called that. Yeah, I know there's a million other things called that because it's a cool name and it's a cool plane. That's,
It's kind of long to type, though. You're not worried about, I guess autocomplete saves you there.
Yeah. Well, and how often are you typing in, blackbird.database? Like, it's not that common of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
You didn't make a capital B in the middle of it, did you?
No. What are you, crazy?
Just making sure. We have to go to the title case site for all these ATP titles. I just want to make sure there's nothing was going terribly wrong here.
Yeah.
Well, you can do lots of fun associated vocabulary that you could throw in there with all Lockheed, Skunk Works, Sled Driver, all sorts of other words associated with that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, and there's all sorts of different ways. Like I'm not even a plane nerd. I just like that plane. So, like, I don't even know most of the other references I could make.
If you want to go onto YouTube, the SR71 Blackbird YouTube rabbit hole is awesome.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Just go down there on YouTube and just watch these 3-hour videos of, like, someone who flew this thing as their career telling you all about it, or the engineers that worked on it, or the Engineering Explained video. There's like 7 Engineering Explained videos that talk about this plane. It's so good. You can just spend, if you like this kind of stuff, and even if you don't think you like it, it's just hours and hours of quality. I should find the Engineering Explained one for notes. Let me go find that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, because I like the plane. It's fast and it's old, And well, I made a SQLite thing that's old, and I made it fast. So, it's like SQLite is like old and awesome and fast, and that's what this is. It's
So when your library's on the runway, it will leak fuel from the fuel tanks because it needs to get up to speed to have enough heat to close the seams.
That's so nuts.
And it will be a super big pain in the ass to use it, but it'll be awesome. all the async calls I'm going to have to make, like it's going to be a big pain in the ass to use this thing from my code. However, when I'm using it, it's going to be awesome and fast.
Yeah, I'll put one engineering explained videos in there. And then probably once you watch that video, your recommended videos along the sidebar will just follow those. And eventually you get to Nazis, but it'll be a while.
Wow.
One of my favorite things on the SR71 though, in one of the videos, I don't know which one it is, you'll have to dig it out or whatever, but it was like I think it was either predating GPS or they needed something to tell where they are, right? On the globe in the spy plane, right? And it's so old and was engineered in such a long time. Like I don't know what I was thinking that they would use for that, but like if you didn't have GPS in your plane, how would you try to figure out, like, for the people in the plane so they know like where on Earth they are?
I guess I would. I mean, obviously you have like compasses, but beyond that, I guess I would just like descend until I could look around at the landscape and try to identify it. I don't know.
So what they did was they have a package that's in the plane that has a bunch of cameras in it, and what it does is it points up at the sky and looks at the stars. It positions itself by the positions of the freaking stars with an optical camera.
That's amazing.
And it's like, well, how else were you going to do it? It's like, well, ships at sea, you navigate, because they have to know where they are anywhere on the Earth, and they can't do like dead reckoning of like, well, I've been going this direction according to the compass headings for this amount of time, and the wind isn't like. They literally look at the stars, and it's like, that's what era this plane is from. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And then you look at the device, you're like, who had to design that? Who had to engineer that? It's like, okay, it's going to be in a plane, and we'll have like a little window, and you're going to look at the sky, at the stars with like 1960s technology, figure out where we are on the planet, and show it on like just it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, they didn't really have like Raspberry Pis and camera modules back then.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. It's not that exciting, but that's what it's called, and it's super fast, and I love it.
Well, it's not too late to call it ButtDB.
I feel like ButtDB now has some wonderful
cachet as SEO.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.